And she just looked at me. She's like, Kate, this isn't normal. We need to do some testing. You either have Lyme disease or parasites or both, because this just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. And, we did some testing, found out I had a huge parasite infection.
Y'all, they found a 3-foot long parasite. Can you even believe it? This is Dr. Kate Davis. She's a functional medicine doctor who personally battled chronic gut issues for nearly a decade, only to find out that she had a massive parasite infection. She leverages her healing journey to help hundreds of women overcome their own chronic gut conditions, from constipation, bloating, IBS, acid reflux, all the things. This is a very interesting conversation. She's not only going to share her story, but then help us know the right order to heal your gut. Through all her trials, she has learned the way, and she's going to point us to it. So let's dive in. If you're done running on empty, surviving shift to shift, and feeling life fatigue, then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Shan Wright, registered nurse, holistic life coach, and mama of 4, who found her way through burnout and anxiety to peace and purpose with faith-based practices and God's design for whole person wellness. Here, I help nurses like you recover from burnout, regulate your nervous system, reconnect with God, and discover your identity beyond the badge. Are you ready to start caring for you the way you care for everyone else? I am. Go reheat that coffee again, and let's beat burnout together. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to bring you guys another guest today, Dr. Kate Davis. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here, Shan.
Yes, I'm so excited for the wisdom you're going to bring us. You had reached out, and that's how we got connected. And you mentioned the gut, which I'm very familiar with gut issues. So I'm like, really, anytime someone wants to come on and talk about the gut, I say yes, because I know it's going to help me, but it's also going to help our listeners. There's such a strong, we all know this, but the gut brain axis is so strong, and especially when it comes to stress and how stress affects our gut. And being that we're talking about burnout and stress, we got to talk about the gut a lot. So we know you are a functional medicine doctor. You had access to a lot of information, but you yourself struggled with some gut issues, a gut infection. Can you take us back through your journey, share with us about your story and how you're helping people today?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again so much, Shan, for having me on your podcast.
Yeah.
And, I got into functional medicine, just because of my own journey. I had really chronic constipation, bloating, all sorts of gut issues and everything that kind of went along with that, including energy issues, which I know you talk about a lot on your show. But, I actually went 13 days without a single bowel movement. And this was when I was 24, I was healthy, and nothing medical doctors offered me helped. They gave me 2 terrible options. Hey, number 1, we can give you a drug that has a permanent side effect of facial twitches. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Thank you. What's option number 2? And they were like, or we can remove your intestines. And so I never went back to that doctor. I was like, there's no way. Either of those.
Similar. My one option for my gut issues, which they diagnosed me with IBS, was one option was a pill. And I never went back to that doctor either, because I, being an oncology nurse, I was like, this is what we give our patients when they're dying. I'm not taking this because it just dries secretions. And I was like, this isn't going to help me, and I don't want the side effects of this. So anyway, sorry, I related because sometimes we don't get the answers.
Yeah, I know that's such an important point that you made, because I see so many people with the same story. They're like, yeah, they just diagnosed me with IBS, which first of all is a useless diagnosis. And we can talk about that later about
I call it the BS diagnosis.
Yeah. But yeah, after that, I was really blessed to be able to find a doctor he was a chiropractor. He did myofascial release in my abdomen, some organ manipulation. And I swear I lost like 10 pounds that night. Like I hadn't gone at this point. I had gone 13 days, 0 bowel movements, could barely eat any food, couldn't even sit up straight in class because I had so much bloating in my upper abdomen and pain. And, I was on Miralax for 11 of those days. Nothing came out. And so after I saw this doctor, I went home, had like 4 or 5 bowel movements. It was such a relief to be able to go to the bathroom again. Like it was, this is why I'm so passionate about gut health, because I remember being in that place. I remember thinking to myself, I'm young, I'm healthy. I was a former D1 athlete. What the heck is going on in my body? Like this isn't normal. And just seeing, all my friends around me just be completely normal. And they could eat whatever they wanted. They could, they weren't bloated, they weren't miserable, they weren't in pain.
Yeah.
And it was just really frustrating to just not get any answers from the medical
Hmm.
system. And I know so many people, who especially are listening to your podcast have probably been through the same thing. And, after that, completely overhauled my diet, which is what everyone starts with, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to go paleo, gluten-free, dairy-free. And I was fine, for about a decade.
Ooh.
Except anytime I went off that diet, all my symptoms would come back. So it never really fixed the problem. It just kind of kept the symptoms at bay. And then I had a really stressful life event happen. All the symptoms came back. They were worse than they were when I was 24. I was just a mess. And, luckily my friend was in town. She's a functional med doctor. She had just, come to San Diego to visit, one of her other friends and myself. And she just looked at me. She's like, Kate, this isn't normal. We need to do some testing. You either have Lyme disease or parasites or both, because this just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. And, we did some testing, found out I had a huge parasite infection. I also had leaky gut, gallbladder dysfunction, multiple other infections going on. But it was really the parasite infection, when she started treating me. I think it was month 2. I had this 3-foot long parasite come out in my stool when I went to the bathroom. And I was like, what?
I can't
Where
even imagine a
where was that
3 foot
living? Right? I was like, where was that living in my body? It was 3
in
feet
your
long. It
intestine.
was it was thick. It was like it looked like a small snake. Like I inspected it because I was curious because I was like, I want to see these suckers come out, because it's so satisfying when you're like, oh, this explains all my symptoms and why I
Yeah.
felt terrible for the
I
last,
hate you,
like
you little thing.
yeah, for the last like 15 years. And so it was just such a relief to finally have an answer. And all after I passed that 3-foot parasite, I had hundreds of other ones come out after that were smaller and different shapes and sizes, but all of my symptoms went away. Every single symptom. I actually lost a lot of weight, which turned out to be inflammation. I looked
Yeah.
super thin. I had so much energy. I never needed coffee anymore. I still drink it because I love the taste of it, but it was just so crazy that all these symptoms that didn't even seem gut related just completely went away once the parasites came out. And so ever since then, I've just, I started treating all my chiropractic patients. They got phenomenal results. And, it just became my full-time job because I just saw so much healing in such a way that I didn't even think was possible before. And so I've helped, hundreds of women heal from chronic gut issues since then.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is your story in a nutshell though. So there I feel
Yeah.
like I have so many questions.
Yeah.
One is 24. That's when you went to the doctor with your 13-day no
Mhm.
bowel movement situation. What did you graduate from college with? What was your degree in? Like, what were you doing?
Yeah. So, funny enough, because I never thought I would use this degree after I graduated, but I was a microbiology major because I was pre-med, my whole life. I wanted to go to medical school.
Okay.
And it was so crazy that like 90% of the doctors I shadowed, because I probably shadowed like 12 doctors between high school and college, 90% of them, based on what I told them I wanted my life to look like, were like, don't go to med school. Go to naturopath school, chiropractic school, do something else. Because number one, if you're a woman and you want a family, they're like, you're going to be in the hospital all the time. I
Yeah.
wanted to do infectious disease like Dr. House. And, that's why I was studying microbiology because we studied viruses and parasites.
Yeah.
Gut, like, is 60% of that degree was all about gut health, which I didn't
Yeah.
know how important your gut health was to every system in your body. 80% of your immune system lives in your gut.
Hmm.
So we, studied immunology, like all that stuff that I actually do now as a functional medicine doctor. So it's so funny that I just kind of, God kind of rerouted me back to like, oh, this is where you started and you can actually use this degree now. So
No.
I was
Yeah.
pre-med. Yeah. So I was pre-med, decided, I didn't really want to just symptom manage. I wanted to actually like really help people. And so I actually went if you've heard of functional neurology, I went to chiropractic school to learn that because I was really into neurology at the time. I'd had a severe head injury, 5 years before the gut issue started. So I think that's what triggered a lot of it. And so
Hmm.
I was really wanting to learn not only how to heal people's brains, but how to heal mine because I was still messed up from it. And that doctor who fixed my gut also did functional neurology and he fixed my brain, in that process too.
So you were in that schooling at the time that you started your gut issues?
No, I actually had just started chiropractic school.
Okay.
And so I just started that. It's very stressful if you go to any sort of doctorate program. So I think the stress of just starting a really intensive program and, already having, prior issues to that, like the head injury and, because it damages, if you get brainstem damage, it can damage that vagus nerve that goes from your brain
Yeah.
to your gut that helps you have bowel movements and that
Yeah.
peristalsis that you need to go to the bathroom. And so
Yeah.
that was a big thing for me is I had a lot of brainstem damage, cerebellum damage, like the back bottom part of the brain. So
Right.
Yeah, I was messed up. And it was just so crazy to also see that gut brain connection. Like once he would start working on my brain issues, my gut would get even better. And I was like, oh, this is really fascinating. And yeah, so it was just
Mhm.
really cool. Like I already had some of that background. I just never really went fully into it until I had my own experience with parasites, later on.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
husband goes to a chiropractor that teaches very well as he practices,
Oh, cool.
and he teaches the family too. And so, anyways, he was helping my husband with a lot of that same stuff and his
Yeah.
cerebellum and how it affects everything, affects your entire body. So,
Yep.
makes sense that he was able to help your gut.
So I was practicing full time,
Okay.
and then that's when the parasite infection like really flared up badly, where I was on the verge of an autoimmune disease. I had like joint swelling up out of nowhere, really bad brain fog, really bad energy issues. Like I was a mess. And it was just so crazy because I thought I had healed it, because I was like, oh, well, as long as I stay away from dairy and gluten, I don't have any symptoms, so it must be gone, right? But it's just, a lot of people do that. They just try diet and supplements and then they
Hmm.
wonder why they don't get better and it doesn't fix the problem. And then for
Hmm.
those of you who know, about how stress affects your gut lining, it's actually been shown in research to create what's called leaky gut, where
Yeah.
you get that, extreme inflammation in the gut lining that allows toxins and infections to slip into your bloodstream, create all sorts of immune issues like autoimmune disease and energy issues. And, it's really just kind of different for everyone, but really bad food sensitivities is a huge
Hmm.
sign of that leaky gut. And so any stressful life event is gonna anything that you've had bubbling under the surface is just gonna overflow and just create all these massive issues. A stressful life event. So I think that's what really, put it into full gear.
Yeah, that is similar, not similar to me, your whole story, but that part about leaky gut, it's really interesting because I actually knew I had a infection in my gut, but I didn't know how or where or the root of it. My good friend was fasting and praying, and
Yeah.
God really just downloaded a word for her to her for me. And it was Shan has leaky gut. And so
Oh.
she's not very medical. And so like she just said to me, oh my gosh, I have your answer. You have leaky gut. And I'm like, I know that though. Can you ask God
Yeah.
why?
That's funny.
Can you
Yeah.
ask God where it's coming from?
Yeah.
Because I knew that was what was happening. I knew the effects of leaky gut was what I was experiencing, but I didn't know the root of it and why it started and where it was coming from and where this infection was without doing any testing, of course. Like this is just me
Yeah.
just being like, just show me the answer, God, without.
Yeah. No, I
So
know, and
anyway,
so
it's
many
funny
people
because
do that.
it is true. We have this leaky gut is like signaling all the signs. Like you've got to you got to figure out what's going on in your body. And a lot of times it is an infection. And for you, it was a parasite infection. Then but it leads us to find the answer because it's very hard to live with those symptoms.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it was really rough because I couldn't even sit up straight in class and if you're in a doctorate program you're in class like 10 hours a day most days. So it was brutal. And like, every time, we'd have midterms or finals, people would want to go out to eat and celebrate and I'd just be sitting at the restaurant like I don't even know if I can eat anything on this menu
Yeah.
because my diet was just so restrictive. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it really just kind of weighs on you, especially if you're young and you've never had health issues. It's just weird. You just always think that, oh, I'm not going to get any health issues till like 50s or 60s or anything like that. And then it
Yeah.
hits you in your 20s and it's just, yeah, it really just affects your whole life, like how you show up for people. And, I work with a lot of moms and, it's really the biggest thing they tell me is I just want to show up for my husband and my kids better.
That's a bell, another bell, but not because someone else needs you, because you need you. If you're a nurse, caregiver, healthcare professional, always helping others and not ever helping yourself, now is the time to take a look at your own stress level. What is stress doing to your body internally, externally? How is it coming out? Where is your stress? And are you headed to burnout? Are you already in burnout? Don't ignore the signs and symptoms that are coming up all the time because you're caring for others and not yourself. Our stress builds, and then one day we realize we're in burnout. And that is why I'm offering you a free stress assessment call. This is a short, personalized session, one-on-one, where we're going to uncover your current stress level, what's actually causing it, and your next best step to get relief. You don't have to figure this out alone. You don't have to wonder, am I in burnout? You don't have to wonder if I'm headed there fast. Go right now to bit.ly/stress assessment call. Let's catch the stress before it leads to burnout. Go now and book your call today.
And that's a real thing, that a lot of moms go through is like you're already tired because you're taking care of toddlers or teenagers with emotions and now you have all this health stuff that you're trying to like keep at bay and just kind of ignore, but it's just very present and it just really affects, every area of your life, not just I'm in pain. It's like no, it affects how you can be around friends and your family and your kids and it's just, it's really tough for a lot of people. So
yeah, I totally agree and that's what actually drove me to finally do something about it. As nurses, we have this, we just put ourselves last and we don't handle our own health issues very well. We will take care of everyone else. And so I was dealing with my symptoms for like 18 months before I did something about it. And what it was is I got tired of every night being like, saying to my husband, and he got tired of it too, believe me, I can't help put the kids to bed because I got to go lay down. Like my stomach hurts so bad. And then we couldn't even be intimate. Like there's so many ways that it affected my relationships. And that is when I was like, no more.
Yeah.
So I can see that mom's coming to you for that. Now, as nurses, we are constantly not only putting ourselves last and not caring for ourselves, but we deal with a lot of digestive issues and gut issues because of the high stress job. And also don't tend to be very nutritious with our bodies, like skipping meals, eating on the run, living off of coffee and adrenaline. And then the night shifts, like working those night shifts and snacking the whole night, circadian rhythm, all those things. Many people struggle with the constipation, the IBS, all the inflammation in general, right? So can you help us with explaining that a little bit and how we can be mindful of those things in the high stress job?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question. And it's such a good point because I think any healthcare person, we always put ourselves last because we're so used to taking care of everyone else.
Yeah.
And then you add in like a nurse who's also a mom and it's just, magnified. Like they're not taking care of anyone except their kids and their patients. And so that's a really big thing I have to talk to a lot of the moms that I work with is, how much time are you giving to yourself every single week to just be? Like to just be alone in a room or at the park or to just like really just, ground yourself and just take time to actually take care of you. And I swear like most people will just laugh and just say, I don't know, like every couple months, like, or never. And they just kind of laugh it off. But it's such an important thing is like you have to take time for yourself. And if that's just, 5 minutes out of your day to go for a walk or to go do some grounding and get some sunshine, there's so many easy ways to mitigate stress. Even if you're in those high stress states, there's so many easy ways to physiologically change your internal environment through simple things like grounding, getting sunlight, especially at sunrise or sunset, breathing exercises. There's so much research on breath and how important it is for, energy and blood flow and brain function and all these different things, even gut function. If you don't breathe properly, you're not getting that massaging effect on your intestines. And a lot of that lymphatic fluid can just stagnate there. And that can create a lot of the bloating and the issues that people experience too. So being in a high stress state, you shallow breathe. And then now all of a sudden you're up here, you go to the chiropractor, my neck, my back hurts. It's like, well, yeah, because you're so stressed and you're go all the time that you're not breathing properly. And it's just firing all these muscles that aren't supposed to be breathing for you. And so that was something I saw a lot with nurses, when I was a chiropractor. And so there's just so many different aspects of it, but you really have to just, take time for yourself so you can actually help other people. Because if you burn out, you're not gonna be able to help anyone. And so that's what I really have to, get in the minds of like moms and, healthcare workers, especially if they're on night shift, is you need to take at least like an hour to yourself every single week to just go do something, whether it's reading or just sitting outside in the grass in the silence and listening to the birds for an hour, whatever like really makes you feel like your battery is full again, because that's probably the easiest thing to do is just make sure that it's a weekly habit or a daily habit or something.
I was going to say really daily would be better.
Yeah. I mean, obviously daily's ideal, but when you have little toddlers, it's like, it's kind of tough to get a moment to yourself. So, but yeah, like really communicating with your spouse and saying, hey, like, I want to get my health back on track so I can show up better for you and for the kids. And so I just need an hour every week where you can just take them to the park and I'm just going to read at home or just sit in silence or just whatever makes you feel like you recharge, because I'm taking care of patients all day too. And usually what I'll do, at the end of the day is I'll just lay on the couch and just do nothing for like half an hour because I'm like, I just need to just relax for a second. And I'll
Yeah.
go for walks in between calls. I'll go outside, do some grounding every single day. I live in San Diego, so it's a lot easier than if you live up north. But
It's cold
because we
here.
get,
It's very
yeah, I
cold.
know. It was like this morning. I know you're gonna hate me for saying this. But this morning it was like 71 and sunny at like 9 in the morning, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful.
It's so good. I mean, I do love the snow, but
Yeah.
it is hard to get out there and do your grounding
Yeah.
and your walks, I will
Yeah,
say.
and so I'd say the biggest thing for people in those high stress jobs is you have to find time every day to do something for yourself. Even if it's
Yeah.
just 2 minutes of breathing. Like, and if you do
Mhm.
something called exhalation focused breathing where you breathe in for 3 seconds, blow out for 6 seconds, just set a timer for 2 minutes. Do that when you're in the break room at the hospital if you have a break. And just be like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and just focus on exhalation breathing because that actually causes your blood vessels to dilate to get more oxygen and better blood flow to your brain and the rest of your body. So you're less sore, less fatigued, at the end of a shift. And it's just these easy, quick things that I teach people to really help themselves. And then prioritizing sleep is really, really
Yeah.
important. That's when so many things happen in your body. That's when your brain and your liver detox. That's when, a lot of your hormones are created. So you have to prioritize sleep and stop doom scrolling on your phone for an hour before bed because that really does mess with your circadian rhythm and your ability to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Okay. Well, talk about healing. So, say this nurse already has her gut issues. She's been struggling. She's been pushing it back, or she's tried a lot of things. She's tried the probiotics, the elimination diets, the supplements from social media. Like she's tried all the things and nothing's working long term.
Mhm.
Can you break down what you call the right order of healing and how that works in the gut? And yeah, just break it down for us.
Yeah, it's such an important topic to talk about because I feel like especially nowadays, the whole parasite cleanse is such a trendy thing right now that it
Yeah.
drives me nuts because I get so many people who message me on Instagram and they'll just say, "What parasite cleanse did you use?" And I'll message them back and I'm like, "Hey, I did testing first. I had to heal my gallbladder and my gut for like at least a month before I even went after, any of those parasites." But what people don't realize is there is a certain order to heal because there are these 3 organs that remove toxins and waste products from your body. So you've got the gut, the gallbladder, and the liver. If you're constipated, if you have IBS or loose stool, if you have leaky gut, if you have a slow or sluggish gallbladder or liver dysfunction, your body is not able to efficiently get those toxins and those waste products out
Mhm.
because yes, we all have detox organs. They should work 100%. Unfortunately, we live in an environment that is so toxic in America because there's unregulated chemicals in all of our food and our clothing and our furniture that we're just constantly exposed, right? And so, number one, you have to figure out, well, what is actually damaging those organs in the first place? Do you have parasites? Do you have mold toxicity? Do you have heavy metals or chemicals or pesticide residue in your system that's just damaging that gut lining so badly that you can't even eliminate waste efficiently? So you're constipated, you have food sensitivities, you have bloating. And then Number two is what systemic infections and toxins are also creating a lot of those issues, whether it's brain fog or energy dysfunction or hormone issues. And so you really got to look at the whole picture. And this is where I see people really mess up is they'll do one test. They'll say, hey, I did a urine mycotoxin test and I have mold toxicity. So I'm just going to jump on a mold detox. And I just stop them. I'm like, please don't do that because what'll happen is if those drainage pathways are not efficiently removing waste and toxins, you're basically like taking a toilet that's already clogged and continuing to use the toilet and then acting surprised when it overflows and damages your whole bathroom. And so that's
Ugh.
kind of what happens in the body is like, I know it's like, I don't know a better analogy, but it's like you don't use a toilet that's clogged, you plunge it, you get it
Yeah,
moved,
you got to get it clean
or
first.
you
Yeah.
add more waste to it, right? And so
Yeah.
our body is the same way. If we don't have a good way to break down toxins in the liver, to get them out of our
Mhm.
system through the gut, then what'll happen is other organs will start taking over. So your kidneys, your skin, your lungs, or you'll have a really bad detox reaction. So you might get like I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I jumped on a cleanse and I got these horrible hives or skin reactions or migraines or headaches or all these things because you've kicked up all these toxins in the body and there's nowhere for them to go." And so
Mhm.
number one is you have to figure out which of those organs are damaged. What's damaging them? Is it an infection? Is it a toxin? Is it just stress? Because I've worked with so many people all we do is the stuff I just mentioned about how to calm your nervous system down for the first month. And they're like 80% better. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess it wasn't an infection or toxin. And I'm just like, yeah, you're just chronically stressed. You got to fix your lifestyle habits and do this stuff daily. And then we're also going to go after all the stuff that popped up on testing, because they might have
Right.
an infection, but it could be the stress that's allowing the infection to really mess them up.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so there's all these different things that you have to look at, brain function, super important. Do you have good vagus nerve firing to the gut to allow peristalsis, that muscular contraction, to move stool out of your body? And then, is your gut toxic? If you have diarrhea, if you have loose stool, that's a huge sign of toxicity in the colon. So there's some sort of infection. You probably wiped out a lot of the good gut bacteria. All right. And so the way to heal is, really heal those organs first. Get your gut the ability to actually absorb nutrients, and your liver and your gallbladder the ability to actually digest the food and the supplements you're putting in your body so that they can actually help you. Because the number one thing people start with is diet and supplements. Everyone starts there and they're like, oh, I don't know why I feel terrible still. And it's because they have so much organ damage and organ dysfunction that they're unable to even absorb what they're putting in their body. And so it's just creating really expensive pee and really expensive poop. And so if you really want to heal at, the foundational level, you have to look at everything. You've got to stop doing, oh, I did this one stool test. I'm like, great. How's your liver and gallbladder functioning? Do you have mold? Do you have heavy metals? Oh, I don't know. I didn't test for that. And so you really got to look at this whole picture,
Mm-hmm.
because there are certain co-infections that will allow parasites to overgrow. Like I also had mold toxicity, fungal overgrowth. There's also, toxins like heavy metals and chemicals that will decrease your immune system's ability to naturally fight off infections you're exposed to on a daily basis. And so you've really got to target everything. Parasites are usually found with heavy metals. If you just go after parasites or just go after heavy metals, you're probably not going to get rid of either, because they function together in the body to hide from your immune system. So there's all these different correlations, and that's why it's so important to just work with someone who knows what they're doing, so they can not only just get you there faster, but save you a lot of money. Because I've met so many people who are like, yeah, I've spent, $5,000 on supplements over the last 4 years and I still feel awful. You could have just gone to a doctor initially, like someone who does functional medicine or a naturopath, and they could have taken all that information, distilled it down for you, and got you there faster. And so that's really why I think it's so valuable to go see someone who really knows what they're doing, instead of just trying to fix it yourself too. But I get, like, it's easy, it's quick. We're in that Western culture of, one problem, one solution, or I'm going to figure it out myself. And that's where a lot of people get kind of lost.
Yeah. But that also adds stress to it. So like if you're going to someone that you trust, that is vetted, and you're like, they're going to take this in a functional way and look at my whole body, and then you can relax. You can actually just know and trust them, knowing that you've already done the work you need to do. You found the person that can help you. And because I also don't like when people are not advocates for their own body, but there's a point where you go and then you trust them. You're going to run the test. You're going to see the data, and then you can lower your stress level because you're not stressed out trying to find all the answers and confused, but this says this and this says that. And how do I know?
Yeah.
It's like that adds more stress. Believe me, I have been there.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have. I mean, I went like 10 years trying to figure this out on my own. And then I was like, oh, I probably should have just gone to a naturopath.
Right.
Or
Because as
someone who actually
nurses,
knew what they were doing.
physicians, anyone in healthcare, we know a lot. So then we're like, well, this was what I know this, but then I know this too. And then we have to know our own bodies. So then we're like, it's just, we go down the rabbit trail way too long, and then it adds to the issue.
And then it adds fear, and now you're stressed, and now you're damaging your gut more and inhibiting your immune system. So I feel like there's like a bell curve of, going down the rabbit hole, where initially you're like, oh, this is really helping. And then you go really too far down and you end up on the other side of the bell curve. And it just, you meet those people who are just afraid of everything. Like, oh, I can't have any workout clothes that aren't 100% cotton. And I'm just like, well, if your body's functioning well, you should be okay. Like, clean up like 80% of your lifestyle, but you're not going to get 100%. That's not possible. Unless you just live in the woods and create all your own food and all your own clothing, there's no way you're going to be 100% toxin free. So the goal should be, well, let's just improve our body's ability to detox naturally so that we don't need, all this stuff or have all these health issues.
Yeah, totally. You said that so good, because I do know those people that have every autoimmune disease. They have the very specific diet that they have to be on, that if there is like a speck of something, a speck of grain. They're like,
Yeah.
like I'm going to be so sick tonight. And it's like, wow, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you really want to live that way where like you are on literally, like you said, fear? You cannot live with a low stress level, which again, chronic stress we know leads to the burnout. So if you can't live in this low stress level, if you have fear making decisions all day long about, is this going to affect my body? How's it going to affect my body? What should I do this? I mean, I just had a gut infection. Even just thinking through that took so much energy out of my brain, making the decisions about what time do I take this supplement? What time do I eat this? It was exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good word to describe it.
It is exhausting. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
going to heal by doing it in the right order and going to someone that we trust, looking at it functionally and holistically. Okay, that's good. Now, this person might already have something going on. Can you give our nurse listeners one practical step they could take this week to start healing their gut, whatever kind of gut issue, but knowing they're busy, stressed, probably skeptical because they've tried a lot of things already and they're like, oh, I'm just dealing with it, Do you have like one practical thing they should start doing?
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned it earlier, but if you're in a high stress job, the number one thing you need to do is something every single day that's going to calm your nervous system down and get it out of that fight or flight state and into that rest and digest state,
Yeah.
because that's where our gut actually functions, not in fight or flight, but in the other,
Yeah.
parasympathetic state. And so that's probably the most important thing for people who are just starting is you've got to downregulate your nervous system. You've got to do the best thing you can do, honestly, especially if you have crazy hours as a nurse, is doing grounding at sunrise or sunset and allowing that light to hit your eyes. Obviously, indirectly, don't stare directly at the sun. But you'd be surprised. I have to actually tell people that because they think I mean directly. But like letting that light hit your eyes, that orange amber light actually signals to your brain when to produce melatonin at night so that you actually can fall asleep easier and stay asleep throughout the night and
Mhm.
not just wake up at like 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. every morning. And so that is probably the number one thing I recommend to people is just stick your feet in the grass, in the dirt, in the sand, for like 20 minutes in the morning or at sunset. And obviously, if you live up north, get a grounding mat because obviously, if there's snow, it's kind of impossible to do grounding. You can, but your feet are going to freeze.
Yeah.
And so you can get a grounding mat. The only company I trust is earthing.com because they were the original grounding people before it became a huge fad. And they
Okay.
did the documentary showing the effects before and after grounding. Like they would ground people's beds to the ground outside and they'd see all these decreases in inflammation in the body. It's really fascinating if you
Oh,
haven't.
yeah. Okay. I gotta look that
Yeah,
up.
it's a really cool documentary, but there's so much research on this. It decreases inflammation. It makes you much less likely to have a blood clot because it actually unsticks your blood after only
Mm.
2 minutes of grounding. So, people who are sedentary and at risk for that stuff, that's also a great thing to do because it's just so quick. And it's just crazy that, the earth was created to heal us, like
Yeah.
herbs, that are basically the foundation of
Yeah.
naturopathy and functional medicine. And
Yeah.
and then we have grounding and sunshine and breathing. And it's like all this free stuff people take for granted. They just want to do, the sexy biohack. Like I'm going to go do infrared sauna 5 times a week or cold plunging or, all that stuff. When in reality, you could just go do really simple things like go in nature, go find a woody area and go for a walk through the woods. Like that is so good for your health. It's just these little things that people don't think of anymore because we're just such a technologically,
Yeah.
savvy kind of society that people can't even put their phone down for 10 minutes to go take care of themselves. And, so obviously if you're going to go in nature, just leave your phone in the car or at home. Obviously if it's a safe area, but yeah. And so it's just really simple things like that. It doesn't cost anything. It's free.
Yeah.
And, as far as like supplements, you might hit the jackpot and find the one that really like fixes your issues right away, but most people don't. And so if you're just buying one supplement after another and trying probiotics and colostrum and all that stuff, but you're not removing the infections and toxins that are damaging the gut in the first place, you're just wasting a bunch of money. So I would just
Yeah.
start with like the nervous system down regulation stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Through my own experience, I will definitely agree with all of that. And I was going to say, you definitely made this point earlier, but no matter how busy, stressed you are, if you do, I think you have to decide first, like, okay, I'm ready to heal or I want to care for my body. But then you have to prioritize this. Like you have a full 12-hour shift, like find the time to within that 24 hours to still do something for your nervous system that's going to help you heal a little bit that day, and to switch into the parasympathetic that day. And then those habits start to grow. But I think you made that point. You're like 1 hour a week would be, baseline.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
But I think you have to decide, like, I'm going to take care of myself. And this is the first small thing that I can do.
Exactly. And people don't realize too, it doesn't take that much to form a new habit. There's a lot of research behind habit formation and what's actually successful. If you read a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, he goes through that, and it's so phenomenal because it's so easy. If you want to break a bad habit, so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, I eat McDonald's 6 times a week and I would love to cut down, but I just can't. Try eating it 5 times a week. Like, you want to pick a goal that is so ridiculously small that you just laugh when you think about it. Like, if you're someone who drinks like, maybe 4 days a week, well, let's try just 3 days a week or 3.5 days. Like, maybe that 4th day you go out to drink, you have 1 glass of wine instead of 2, really small, simple changes. That's what creates long lasting habits. It's not going cold turkey. It's not thinking you have to change your whole life overnight. You have to change your whole diet. You have to get rid of all these toxic products and buy all new ones. That is what's going to stress you out. And that's what I think people get wrong when they're like, yeah, I've tried everything. I just can't stick to it. And I'll give them a really simple goal. I'm like, okay, if you don't walk, because I recommend people walk like, 3-4 times a day. It's one of the best things for blood sugar and fasting insulin regulation. But I'm like, okay, if you don't walk at all, let's try 2 minutes. Can you do 2-minute walk in the morning? Most people will laugh when you tell them that. They're like, oh, of course I could do 2 minutes. And it's like, okay, great, go do 2 minutes. And then, like 2 months in, they're walking like 30 minutes a day, and it's easy because they started so ridiculously small. And it's those daily wins that give you the confidence to know like, oh, I can do this. And like your confidence builds over time. That's what actually helps you maintain those habits. It's not, doing everything cold turkey overnight. And so you got to get those little wins every day that make you, realize like, oh, I can do this. You start trusting yourself. You start believing your words when you say, oh, I'm going to wake up early tomorrow and do X, Y, Z. And it's just this whole, kind of psychology thing as well.
Yeah. It's this whole transformation.
Exactly. And so that's where you need to start with your gut is like, okay, well, I can't do 20 minutes of grounding in the morning, or I can't even wake up early enough to see sunrise. So let me do sunset. Let's start there. Let me do like 2 minutes of grounding. If you live somewhere snowy and you don't want to buy a grounding mat, if you just lay like the night before it snows, if you just lay like a thick mat, like a doormat, like out on one patch of grass, maybe near your door, so you don't have to go out too far. And then in the morning when it's, snow is on it, you just flip the mat over and now you have a little grassy patch that you can put your feet. And then you just keep the mat there. So every time it snows, you have a little grassy patch that you can ground. And so I have a lot of patients who do that. And they're like, oh, I never thought about that. And I'm like, yeah, it's easy. So
you mean just like a doormat?
Oh yeah. Like something that's heavy that it will flip the snow off when you like kind of pull it up. But yeah, like something like a doormat would probably be best. Like a garbage bag is going to be kind of heavy and it's probably not going to get all the snow off. So, but yeah, like simple things like that. It's not, we overcomplicate so much, and like we overestimate how much we can do in like 3 months, and we underestimate how much we can change in a full year. And so I always tell people like start really small. If you have a massive sweet tooth, start putting your sweets on the top shelf, especially if you're a short person and you can't reach it. So that way you have to go grab a ladder every time you want a snack. And then eventually you're going to be like, oh, I don't really want to do that much work to get a cookie. It's like simple things like that where put it out of reach. Or if I eat like a whole row of Oreos in a week, try doing one less cookie, like try doing a whole row minus one cookie. And it's like, you have to start so small that it's laughable. That is the best way to create long lasting change. So start there.
Yeah. So good. Thank you. That feels like so much grace and like, we can do this. We can take this on. So thank you for that. Okay. So I hate to end this conversation, but I need it to be digestible for our listeners. Yeah. Yes. Tell us where they can find you, where they can get in touch with you. Do you do remote work?
I do. Yeah. I work with people in all the states except New York. New York, for those of y'all who don't know, they make it impossible to send labs to people in New York. So 49 of the 50 states. Yes, I do work with people all over. But yeah, and I just want to thank you, Shan, for having me on the podcast. It's been, such a pleasure being on here. But yeah, I would just say, if you're someone listening to this podcast and you're thinking, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be able to go to the bathroom, once a day, or to not be bloated all the time and look 6 months pregnant after every meal, or to be able to actually go out to eat with my friends and not, suffer for days after. Then I just want to, give you some hope. Like, I've seen so many people heal. I've seen so many people, myself included. I couldn't do dairy or gluten for about a decade, and now I can drink coffee with, real milk in it, and I can eat sourdough, and I can, do all these things I couldn't do before because I actually got to the root cause and healed it. So number one, the best place you can find me, again, my name is Dr. Kate Davis. So on Instagram, it's just at Dr. Kate Davis. So DrKateDavis. Go ahead and follow me on there. So I post daily content on how to move the needle forward in the gut healing process. You can start implementing those tools and tips on my page right away to start getting some relief. And then for those of you who are, maybe even looking for someone to really help you, and you're just like at the end of your own knowledge and just really want someone to shortcut the process for you, I'm offering an exclusive discount to work with me that's only available to those of you listening to this podcast. So again, if you go to my Instagram at Dr. Kate Davis, DM me the number 100, I'll give you $100 off an initial consult plus labs package. And so you'll basically get the initial consult for free, and then we'll do labs to see exactly what's going on in your body. So you'll get a full picture of, what's creating the chronic gut issues that you're dealing with, which drainage pathways aren't functioning, what infections and toxins are lurking in your body. And I'll put together an individualized, detox and lifestyle care plan specifically suited to you, so you can finally heal and not mess yourself up in the process, which I've seen a lot with detoxing improperly. Want to let you guys know that healing is absolutely possible. So just because you haven't found an answer yet doesn't mean it's not out there. So, just keep looking. There's definitely someone who can help you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to put all the information in the show notes so it's easy access, but thank you. That is so kind. It has been so fun having you on. I love learning this stuff again because I can so relate, and I know my listeners can too. So thank you for being willing to share your story and be so helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
I pray that blessed you, and it would bless me big if you would share the show with a friend or write a review. It will only take a few minutes, and it's the best way for people to find the show too. I would love to connect over on Instagram at @theshanwright, or you can email me hello@theshanwright.com. And until next time, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace. Shalom.